Okay, I'll let you do it.
No worries. I have to make them. Should be good.
We're good. Okay, good morning,
Yep.
everyone. Welcome to the Insurance and Pharmaceuticals Subcommittee of the Health and Government Operations Committee. This is our first extra session. We are now at the point of the session when we need to move bills quickly through the House in order to make sure that they get a fair hearing in the Senate. So that's why this may not be the only time that we meet outside of our regular Tuesday time. And we are only working on two bills today. After some discussion last evening, the other two bills that we thought we might be able to discuss are still in that working process, and folks are working to make sure that everyone is comfortable with the bill that they're going to bring to us. And we will see those bills, the ones we are not talking about today, we will see next Tuesday morning. The bills we are talking about are House Bill 879 and House Bill 1074. We're going to start with 879. That's Delegate Johnson and both Delegates Johnson. And it's health benefit plans, calculation of cost sharing, contribution, requirements, and prohibitions. And Elijah, let everybody else in. Forgot to do that part. I just had you guys.
Yes, Jason.
Okay.
I admitted everyone all at once, but it takes a second. But
no,
yeah,
that's fine. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today in our extra session. I will let you know that if you are here today for House Bill 876 or House Bill 1056, we will not be discussing those bills today. So you can certainly stay and listen to the other two bills we will be discussing, but we will not be discussing those bills. They are still in process and being worked through so that all the parties can be at least comfortable or can live with a product of compromise. So we are going to start today with House Bill 879. Delegate Johnson, this is health benefit plans, calculation of cost sharing, contribution, requirements, and prohibitions. We have some amendments to offer you from the last time we saw you on Tuesday. So Lisa, would you review the bill and the new amendments?
Sure. So the amendments pretty much strike what was originally in the bill, and instead they are requiring discounts, financial assistance payments, product vouchers, or other out-of-pocket expenses made by or on behalf of an insured to be included in the calculation for the insured's cost-sharing responsibilities for prescription drugs that are covered by the insured's health benefit plan and that do not have an AB rated generic equivalent unless the insured obtained coverage through prior authorization, step therapy, or an exception or appeal. The amendments also require a person who provides an insured with discounts, financial assistance vouchers, or other out-of-pocket expenses to notify the insured of the maximum dollar amount of the assistance and the expiration date, and provides that a violation of that provision is a violation of the Consumer Protection Act. Finally, the amendments make an exception to the applicability of the provisions of the bill for high deductible health plans.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Delegate Johnson, would you like to speak to the bill?
Madam Chair, committee, this has been a bill of a lot of compromise back and forth. And I think with the final amendments, it's something that doesn't go as far for everyone as they would like to see on either side. But it is a work of compromise, and I think it ends up being a fair bill for the consumer, which that's what we really wanted to get at. The money, the coupons to go towards their deductible, and for them to know how much the coupons are going to be, the dollar value that they're going to be getting, and when they're going, how long they're going to last, when they're going to expire.
I want to say thank you, Delegate Johnson. You've done, a yeoman's job on this bill, and really appreciate you working with everyone to get us to this point. Delegate Shalega, you have a question or a comment?
A
Or both.
question. Thank you. Thanks, Delegate Johnson, for working so diligently on this. And I'm a little bit confused because I read the amendment and it looks like it's completely changing the bill. So can you just walk us through what this does now, and or maybe Lisa, just in plain language, how it works for the patient?
Delegate, if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and take
Or
that.
you can, anybody.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, and Lisa, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Right now, it says that if a manufacturer offers any kind of assistance, cost assistance to an insured person, the amount of that assistance will be applied to the deductible of that individual. So, and it's usually in the form of coupons, so that's why it's called a coupon. So that, if they have a coupon for a drug that is $5,000, then $5,000 would go towards the deductible of that person. It also says that the manufacturer is required to notify, because this was the issue that I had, that patients were being given the coupons, but then they were turned off without any notice. And so it left people high and dry on their medications in some cases. And then that the bill, it cannot apply to the federally regulated plans, which are the HSA plans, and it the bill itself falls on the requirements on the manufacturers fall under the Consumer Protection Act. Does that help?
And it does, but why are we not permitted to let it count for the HSAs?
We're not. No.
Okay, so that's a legality issue.
Yes.
Okay.
And thank you for that question, to make it clear. We don't have any authority to regulate those programs.
So in the end, for the patient.
Delegate, you froze there.
/ consume bond counted towards their deductible. And maybe is that, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
I turned my video off. So for the consumer / patient, it's essentially doing the same thing.
Yes, for anyone other than a person on an HSA program.
Okay, but what were the things that we had to change in it?
That the amendments we made, we took out the requirement that it be provided for 1 year. And we also took out another clause that related to a maximizer program.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Taveras. Delegate Taveras, and you're on mute.
Yes. Thank
There you
you,
go.
Madam Chair. So okay, I think you just answered the question. So that means that these coupons are not going to be extended to a year, just for whatever, as long as the manufacturer likes. And we will be informing the customer, okay, this coupon is going to dry up in X number of days, or what's the notification requirement?
Well, the notification requirement is that they be notified, and I understand that you can notify them electronically. A lot of these coupons are electronic, or at the pharmacy. They can get the information from the pharmacist themselves because the pharmacy will sometimes say, there's a coupon for this drug. And so they'd have to give them something that notifies them how long that coupon or what the maximum amount of that coupon is. You're still on mute.
Is it possible for us to notify the person at least one prescription prior?
Probably not, because you get the coupon when you take your prescription in. So it will be something that you learn on the spot. And then, of course, once you've done it, once you've used the coupon and you can use it again because it continues to be valid as long as the maximum amount that the manufacturer is contributing, and contributing is the wrong word. So for my carrier friends, I didn't mean it to say that way. But that the manufacturer is covering that just to let them know that's the amount it will be, however many times you need to use it.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out, like, if there is, let's say, if you are on a particular drug indefinitely, or my concern is like, okay, you're given 90 days and you have to go in every month to fill your prescription.
Right.
Some prescriptions fill it up 90 days, some of them do it every 30 days. But do you get notice within 30 days or not?
Madam
Not at
But
all.
Delegate Johnson, you have an answer for that?
When they go to the pharmacy to fill the prescription and the pharmacist pulls it up, it will let them know if there's a prescription available or a coupon available, and they will have to notify the pharmacy of what the dollar amount will be for that coupon. And then it's easy to calculate right there how long that's going to last you throughout the year.
Got it.
And it may be a value that lasts you all year, but then it may not, but they will at least know up front.
Ahead of time. Got it. That's what I'm, okay.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Delegate. I appreciate it. Thank you, Delegate Johnson. Delegate Kipke.
Yeah, I think the idea of these these tools are to help people hit their deductible. So if you have a high cost therapy and you've got a high deductible, I think these coupons help you hit your deductible. I mean, that's the idea of the bill. It goes towards the deductible. So in that way, I see how the bill helps the consumer. So 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 many people have high deductibles without the bill. It doesn't hit the deductible using the coupon. This helps them hit it. So you may not necessarily need it all year long because under this bill, you will have now hit your out-of-pocket max, aside from any, negotiated co-pays. That's my understanding.
Okay. Thank
That
you,
is
Delegate.
correct.
That helps too. Okay. I don't see any other hands. Oh, Matt Prentice.
Madam Chair, I want to provide comments, but I don't mean to jump ahead any other subcommittee members.
I don't see any hands on the subcommittee.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'll be very brief. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, first, thank you so much for all the work that's gone into this. I want to say very clearly on behalf of the patient community and coalition working on this that when a bill that counts copay assistance towards a patient's out-of-pocket costs, it doesn't include the maximizer language. And then while also addressing the concerns we heard both in the subcommittee and committee about when generics are available, addressing all those three pieces represent all the parts of a good bill that benefits patients and I think addresses the concerns we've heard. I just want to talk to the other two amendments very briefly. This new language regarding notification requirements and potential violations of the Consumer Protection Act, I fully appreciate the intentions that this amendment has in order to protect patients. I just want to stress that copay assistance is voluntary. It doesn't have to exist, but it does represent one of the most direct ways for patients to afford their medications. And so from the patient perspective, the last thing that we would want as a coalition is a new compliance paradigm that's either hard to operationalize or could anyway be a disincentive to companies and other groups providing copay assistance. And so I can't speak on behalf of how manufacturers and other third-party groups would operationalize this, but in that sense, we're neutral because we just aren't really clear on whether there would be unintended consequences. And if I may, just real quick on the HSA language, the HSA language, when we work in different states on this, it really doesn't have to be a huge area of debate. What gives me pause, Madam Chair, is this idea that for patients on high deductible health plans on the marketplace, so these state regulated plans, the idea that this legislation wouldn't help them or wouldn't impact them. That's not how it works in any other state. So I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. The reason the bill was drafted in the way it was, where it speaks to the minimum requirements of the deductible, that matches the same language that DC passed last year, because individuals on these high deductible health plans, they do have to meet a minimum requirement related to their HSA and the deductible that they owe. But the idea that they would not be able to apply copay assistance to out-of-pocket costs beyond that is just not accurate, right? And if we were to say that this bill excludes people in Maryland on high deductible health plans on the marketplace, we would exclude the vast majority of individuals that would benefit from this. And so if the interpretation of that language from MIA is that way, that all these folks would be excluded from this bill, that's a problem. But if we're saying the same thing, that patients have to meet their minimum deductible requirement on these high deductible health plans, and then the copay assistance can count, we are saying the same thing. So I just want to stress that that's critically important.
Lisa, do you want to address the legality of the HSA? I'm looking, I don't see anyone from MIA here.
I think David Cooney is on.
David on? Ah,
Yeah.
he is. David. Great, thank you.
Well, thank you, Delegate. So the interpretation of the language, which is consistent with language that Maryland has used to address the HSA exemption since HSA's first were authorized under federal law, is that if the insured is covered under a high deductible health plan, the provisions of this bill would not apply to that insured. And I understand there's some other states that use different language, but this is the language that there's probably at this point 6 or 7 different laws that require first dollar coverage in Maryland, and we have an HSA exemption. And this is the language that has been used. It's the language that can actually be operationalized, enforced by the MIA, and actually operationalized by insurance companies. I know there's some other languages we use in other states. We have consistently pushed back against that. Just because another state has adopted other language doesn't mean it can actually be administered and enforced. So the language in this bill is, again, the language that we have since going back to 2004, I believe, in Maryland.
Okay. Thank you, David. Delia Shalega.
Thank you. Yeah, I was reading on page that the language I think that we're talking about is on page 3 of the amendment that you sent over, which actually says this section does not apply to the deductible requirement of a high deductible health plan, which I think Matt makes a good point that, these are the people that we're, trying to help. So, am I understanding it right that other states have done this, but we're not able to do it?
Well, I'm going to defer to the MIA. We have done, as we have increased benefits over the time that I've been here, this caveat has been in every one of the bills that says it doesn't apply, because if you look at the federal regulations around these high deductible plans that have health savings accounts, the benefits of those plans are low premiums. And so they balance the low premiums with the high deductibles. And so therefore the rules that guide you around the high deductible are different than they are for the other traditional plans. David, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight the distinction you made. So this isn't just any plan that has a high deductible. It's specifically the ones that are HSA compatible, which you just said. But it's for the examples of plans sold on the exchange, whether it's the small group or individual. Not every one of those plans that has a high deductible is a HSA compatible high deductible. And actually, I right now off the top of my head, I know the number that are actually truly HSA compatible high deductibles over the years has diminished. I can't think of the top of my head how many actually meet that qualification, but that I think that's an important distinction to make, that many of those plans with high dollar amount deductibles are not HSA compatible high deductible health plans.
Thank you for
And
clarifying that.
therefore this bill would apply to those plans.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. So Delegate, you can have a deductible of, $5,000 because that's the plan you chose, but it's not necessarily a federally regulated plan with
Great,
a health savings account.
Thank you for clarifying. That's
Yeah.
what I was worried about. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks. Lance Kilpatrick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And before I start, by the way, happy International Women's Day. Good
Thank
stuff.
you.
I know my wife is very happy about that. So, and I don't know if how to go about this exactly, but it does seem to me philosophically, right, that patient assistance programs are specifically to help those who have concerns about paying for their drugs, right? And it seems counterintuitive to me that if someone who chooses a high deductible health insurance plan, probably because they need to have their premiums as low as possible because they don't have much money themselves, are therefore going to be excluded from patient assistance that they could obtain. And while Matt Prentice, referenced DC, it's my understanding also that Virginia and Delaware has also found a way to categorize minimum deductible, which under IRS is $1,400 for an individual and $2,800 for family, to then have the copay assistance come into play after that. And I think in this specific instance, it seems very relevant that we should be looking at the individual patient experience and those costs and not say, well, you know what, you couldn't afford a robust health insurance plan, you had to go with the minimum. So on top of that, we're going to hold back from you any patient assistance that may be offered for drugs that can be incredibly expensive, particularly talking about my constituency.
I don't disagree, Lance, but it is about the way people choose their plans. And if you chose your plan in order to be able to have a lower premium that is regulated by the government, that is subsidized by the employer, has all those factors in it. So it's a special federally regulated plan. Then you made choices about, your deductible and how it would be paid. So you can still get the assistance. You can still have the assistance. You just can't apply it to the deductible under the way I understand those plans are regulated. David?
Thank you. Just real quick, I did just check of the plans on the individual exchange for 2024. Of all the plans and all the ones with high deductibles, only 3 are actually HSA compatible high deductible health plans. So just to reaffirm that point, that if you're looking at plans on the exchange and they have high deductibles, it's literally only 3 of those that would be exempt from this requirement.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful. All right, I don't see any other hands. Do I have a motion on this amendment? On these amendments?
Move favorable on the amendment.
Do I have a second? Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
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 Will there be any opposition to the amendments? Seeing none, amendments pass unanimously. Do I have a motion on the bill?
Move the bill.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, those in favor of the bill, please say aye.
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 Will there be any opposition to the bill? Okay, seeing none, it passes unanimously. Thank you all for the discussion and for the work on this bill. I'm really excited that we're going to be able to move it forward. Okay, we're going to move on to House Bill 1074 and welcome Delegate Bagnall. And Lisa, tell us, and this is another bill that's been pretty significantly amended. So let's walk through the amendments.
Do you think it would be easier to walk through the reprint?
Yes, I do. Does everyone, let me ask the subcommittee, does everybody have a copy of the reprint?
Yes, it was emailed over.
Okay.
Okay, so on the first page, you'll notice it is now an emergency bill at the top of the page. Moving on to page 3, we're adding a definition for product for purposes of the report that we'll get to later in the bill. This on page 3, we're also clarifying that carriers are required to identify all NQTLs and perform and document a comparative analysis in accordance with federal law. Carriers are required to provide this analysis to MIA within 15 working days of a request for the analysis, or less if the feds adopt a rule or regulation for a shorter time frame. Page 3.5, the carrier is also required to provide an analysis to a member within 30 days of a request. Carriers are also required to submit reports. The original submission date for the next report was March 1 of 2024. Obviously, this legislation will not have passed or been enacted by then. So we are moving the date to July 2024. The commissioner has it within her authority to postpone this. So that's what they're doing, so that the requirements of this bill will be the requirements for the next reporting period. And the reports will be submitted every 2 years. So the way it was done last time was they reported the 5 health benefit plans with the highest enrollment in the bill, with the highest enrollment under this bill. The report will be on each product offered by the carrier in the individual small and large group market. On page 4, it says that the report will include a comparative analysis of not less than 5 NQTLs selected by MIA. The report will also include an attestation that the selected NQTLs are designed and applied in the same way to all plans within the product. And if there is a plan that applies one differently, then a separate comparative analysis will be required for that. Starting at the bottom of page 4, it explains the criteria that MIA is going to use for selecting the NQTLs. They will consider the ones that have the greatest impact on member access to care. Going over to page 4.5, the MIA will consider a review of the same subset of non-quantitative treatment limitations, and they will take into consideration other factors that are determined relevant by the commissioner, including complaint trends, Federal Parity Act guidance, and which NQTLs were part of the last reporting requirement. Of the 5 selected NQTLs, no more than 2 may be for utilization review, and at least 1 will be for network composition. If the MIA finds non-compliance for a product, it will apply to all the plans within the product. And then at the bottom of page 4.5, this is saying that if an NQTL was in use before the Parity Act, a carrier is still required to comply with the parity law for that NQTL, and they have to do the comparative analysis. let's see, the next changes are on page 6. They require the commissioner to develop templates for the comparative analysis for submitting data. They require carriers to submit the templates for each NQTL selected and separate templates if the NQTL is applied differently to a plan within a product. And MIA needs to allow the public 30 days to comment on any of these templates. Moving on to, let's see, page 7, we're just clarifying that that when the commissioner reviews a report, they are looking for compliance for each Parity Act classification. On page 8, we have new enforcement authority. The commissioner may require carriers to complete data templates more frequently than every 2 years. And if the commissioner finds that a carrier failed to submit a complete report, they can charge the carrier for any additional expenses incurred by the commissioner to review additional reports, as long as that's reasonable. They can impose a penalty for each day in which the carrier fails to submit information required to the commissioner. And then if the commissioner cannot make a determination because of an incomplete report on specific conduct or practice that is compliant, if they can't make a determination of compliance with the Parity Act, then the carrier can issue an administrative order requiring the carrier to modify, cease the conduct or to submit periodic data until the commissioner can make a determination. And then the commissioner may also require the carrier to establish specific quantitative thresholds for the evidentiary standards and conduct a new comparative analysis under certain circumstances. So there's just some clarifying changes on page 9, and then on the last page on page 10, we're bringing in some language that was in 1085, and this is repealing the sunset that was on these provisions, and it also is repealing the original requirements for MIA to develop forms for the submitting of these reports, because we've now added all of the template language into the bill.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Before I go to Delegate Bagnall, I want to, first of all, thank all of the folks who worked on this. Representatives of the Maryland Insurance Administration, the sponsor, representatives of advocates, ultimately the carriers. So there's been a great deal of work on this bill, and I want to thank everybody who was involved in that. I'm going to go to Delegate Bagnall first.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I second your comments, because there have been a lot of hours put into this, a lot of compromise. So there are several problems we're trying to solve here. One is, we know we have a compliance issue, but the MIA is struggling to drill down on where that compliance issue is coming from. The other issue we have is that we need to create a greater enforcement authority for the MIA without overwhelming them with meaningless data, which is what we have been experiencing. And the third problem is that the feds are going to give us guidance, but not during our session. So we have I think that we have come to a good place where we have the carriers are going to be held to account. We're giving MIA the data that they need, but also the flexibility that they also need without being too prescriptive within the bill. And I'm actually very proud of the work that's been done here. So.
Thank you, Delegate. I'm going to open it now for comments, questions. Matt Celentano.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. I just want to thank you, Delegate Cullison, Delegate Bagnall, and the MIA for getting us to a place where we're really grateful to work. We're concerned with pieces of the legislation, but we appreciate where this landed, and we are very much willing to work with the MIA to meet all of our shared goals. So once again, it's one of those products that I think not everybody loves, which probably means you should just get it moving. Thanks again, and we will certainly be available and willing to work with the MIA as we progress through this progress. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I don't know, Matt, your persona is changing this session. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one, do I have a motion on we're going to do all the amendments at once. Do I have
With the amendments.
we have a motion
Second.
on the amendments of second? Any discussion on the amendments? Seeing none, those in favor of the amendments, please say aye.
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 Will there be any opposition to the amendments? Seeing none?
Move the bill.
The bill's been
Second.
moved and seconded. Do I have any discussion on the bill as amended? Seeing none, those in favor of the bill, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those, will there be anybody opposed to the bill as amended? Okay, then the bill passes unanimously. Thank you all.
Thank you all for your work on that.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for, everybody who's working on that and for the good discussion this morning. If you were here for a bill that was not scheduled, that was held, and that's 876 or 1056, please come back on Tuesday morning. We will have the bills, or at least notify you what the status is on Tuesday morning on those bills. Other than that, the floor session is at 11. HGO will be voting at 1 and hearings at 2 today. Thank you.